I stood at the airport arrivals gate in my dress uniform, medals gleaming, duffel bag slung over my shoulder. 3 tours, 36 months away from home. The Memphis International Airport buzzed with civilian life around me, but I might as well have been standing in a combat zone when I read the text on my phone. Don't bother coming. The locks are changed. The kids don't want you. It's over. My husband Derek had sent it exactly 3 minutes before my plane landed. 3 minutes. After 3 years of serving our country, he couldn't even wait for me to touch American soil before destroying my world. A woman bumped into me, apologizing profusely when she saw my uniform. "Thank you for your service," she said, tears in her eyes. I nodded, unable to speak, because how do you tell a stranger that while you were protecting their freedom, your own family was being stolen from you? I typed 3 words that would destroy his world. As you wish. What Derek didn't know was that my grandmother, Judge Cordelia Nash, had taught me something important before I deployed. We'd sat in her study, surrounded by law books and framed photos of her 40-year career on the federal bench. She'd pulled out a manila folder, thick with documents. "Always protect yourself legally, sweetheart," she'd said, her steel gray eyes serious behind her wire-rimmed glasses. "Especially when you're serving your country. I've seen too many soldiers come home to nothing because they trusted the wrong person with everything." Derek would never. I'd started to protest, but she'd held up one weathered hand. "The Derek you know today might not be the Derek you meet in 3 years. War changes everyone, Vera. The ones who leave and the ones who stay behind." So I'd signed the papers. Power of attorney with limitations. Separate bank accounts for my combat pay. The house kept in my name only since I'd bought it with my VA loan before we married. Insurance policies. A family care plan that designated my grandmother as emergency guardian if Derek became unfit or unwilling to care for our children. "You're paranoid, Cordelia," Derek had laughed when he signed his portions, barely reading them. "Vera and I are solid. Right, babe?" Standing in that airport now, reading his cold dismissal of our 15 years together, our 2 children, our entire life. I silently thanked my paranoid grandmother, because Captain Vera Holloway didn't just plan supply routes in Afghanistan. She'd planned for this exact moment. My phone rang. Sterling Vaughn, my military lawyer who'd helped draft those documents 3 years ago. "Vera, I just got an interesting call from a process server," he said without preamble. "Seems your husband filed for divorce yesterday and is claiming abandonment. He also filed for full custody and is demanding alimony. Says you've been gone so long, you're unfit to parent." "Sterling," I said, my voice carrying the same calm I'd used when calling in airstrikes. "Remember Operation Homefront? The contingency plan we hoped you'd never need? Execute it. All of it. Now." "With pleasure, Captain." "Where are you?" "Memphis International, about to catch a cab to my grandmother's house." "Not your house?" According to Derek, the locks are changed. He's about to learn what happens when you change the locks on a house you don't own. I could hear Sterling smile through the phone. "Derek has no idea what's coming, does he?" "He thinks he ambushed me," I said, walking toward the exit with purpose now, my military bearing returning. "But you can't ambush someone who's been preparing for your betrayal since the day she left. He wanted war? He just got one." As I stepped into the Tennessee sunshine, my phone buzzed with another text from Derek. "Also, I've been seeing someone." "Nadira understands the kids need stability, something you clearly can't provide." I screenshotted it, adding it to a folder I'd been building for 6 months, ever since the strange charges started appearing on our joint credit card. The one he didn't know I still monitored. 3 tours of duty had taught me many things. How to survive on 2 hours of sleep, how to make life or death decisions in seconds, how to lead soldiers through hell and bring them home. But the most important lesson? Always have a battle plan. And always, always have a backup plan for when the enemy shows their true face. Derek thought he'd won with those changed locks and that cold text. He thought I'd crumble, beg, negotiate from weakness. He'd forgotten who he married. I wasn't just a soldier. I was a logistics officer. And logistics officers don't just plan for victory. We guarantee it. 3 years ago, I kissed my family goodbye at Fort Campbell. The morning was crisp, October sun painting everything gold, and Derek held me tight, whispering promises about keeping the home fires burning. His cologne, the expensive stuff I'd bought him for our anniversary, mixed with the smell of freshly cut grass from the base. Maddox, 11 then, stood straight and tried to be brave, but his chin quivered when he thought I wasn't looking. 8-year-old Bryn clung to my leg, her small fingers twisted in my ACU pants, making me promise to FaceTime every single week without fail. "Mommy's going to help keep everyone safe," I told them, smoothing down Bryn's wild curls that she'd inherited from my side of the family. "And when I come back, we'll go to Disney World. All 4 of us. We'll stay at that resort with the safari animals, just like you wanted." "Even the water slides?" Bryn asked, her green eyes wide. "Every single water slide," I promised, sealing it with a kiss on her forehead. Derek had been supportive initially, almost proud in a way that surprised me. "My wife, the hero," he'd tell anyone who'd listen at his real estate office, showing photos of me in uniform like I was a trophy he'd won. He organized a deployment party the night before I left, inviting all our friends and neighbors. He'd made a toast that brought tears to everyone's eyes, talking about sacrifice and service and how proud he was to hold down the fort while I served our country. The first deployment went smoothly. We had a rhythm. Daily emails where Derek would send me detailed updates about the kids' lives. Maddox made the basketball team. Bryn lost her first tooth. The dishwasher broke, but Derek fixed it himself, sending me a photo of him covered in soap suds, grinning like a fool. Weekend video calls became our church, sacred time where nothing else mattered. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. Afghanistan time just to catch them before bed in Tennessee. Care packages flowed both ways, like a lifeline made of homemade cookies and hand-drawn pictures. "Daddy put your photo by the dinner table," Bryn told me during one call, "so you can eat with us every night." My unit noticed how those calls energized me. "Holloway's been to the phone tent," they'd joke when I came back grinning. "Watch out, Taliban." By the second tour, things shifted subtly. The calls got shorter. Derek would position the camera so I could barely see him, focusing on the kids instead. "You don't want to see me anyway," he'd laugh. "I haven't shaved in 3 days." Real estate's been crazy. "Since when don't you shave?" I asked, trying to keep it light, but something cold settled in my stomach. "Since my wife isn't here to complain about stubble," he said, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. By the third tour, Derek stopped picking up altogether. The phone would ring and ring, then go to voicemail. 20 minutes later, a text would appear. "Connection's bad today, babe." "Kids are at practice. We'll try tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. But I held on to those memories of us like prayer beads, running through them during the endless nights. Sunday pancakes where Derek would make Mickey Mouse shapes for Bryn and dinosaurs for Maddox. Baseball games where Derek and I would scream ourselves hoarse cheering for our son, embarrassing him just enough to make him secretly pleased. Ballet recitals where Derek would film everything on his phone, even the parts where Bryn wasn't on stage. And those precious nights after the kids went to bed, when Derek and I would slow dance in the kitchen to whatever song came on the radio, his hands warm on my waist, my head on his shoulder. "You miss them," Captain Rodriguez said one night during guard duty. It wasn't a question. "Every second," I admitted, "but 6 more months and I'm done. 3 tours is enough. Time to be a full-time mom again. Your husband must be counting the days." "Yeah," I said, though Derek hadn't mentioned my return date in 2 months. "He must be." My unit called me Ironheart Holloway because nothing rattled me. When a supply convoy got hit by an IED, I coordinated the response without my voice wavering. When we lost 2 soldiers in a rocket attack, I held it together for my troops. But alone in my bunk, I cried myself to sleep looking at family photos, counting days on a calendar marked "Going Home" in red ink. I'd written Maddox a letter for every birthday I'd missed. 3 of them now, sealed and saved. I'd recorded myself reading Bryn's favorite bedtime stories, hoping Derek played them for her. I'd sent home a piece of every place I'd been, creating a shadow box of my service that I imagined showing them, explaining each patch and pin and medal. "When you get home," I told myself every night, "everything will be perfect again." I should have known perfect was too much to ask for, but I never imagined coming home to nothing at all. The signs started 6 months into my 3rd tour, subtle as hairline cracks in armor. Bryn stopped appearing on video calls. Her absence felt like a missing tooth, painful and wrong. "She's going through a phase," Derek explained, but his eyes darted away from the camera, focusing on something off-screen I couldn't see. You know how pre-teens are. Everything's drama. She's 11, Derek. What kind of phase makes a daughter not want to see her mother? The kind where her friends' moms are all at school events and hers is in Afghanistan, he snapped, then immediately softened. Sorry, that came out wrong. She just needs time to adjust. Maddox barely spoke during calls anymore, just nodded when I asked about school, his eyes dull as old pennies. The boy who used to tell me every detail about basketball practice now answered in monosyllables. Yes, number, fine, okay. Mad, honey, tell me about your science project, I tried one evening. Grandma said you were building a robot? Dad said not to bother you with kids' stuff, he mumbled. You have important things to worry about. You are my important things, I said, but he was already looking away, asking Derek if he could go. Then came the credit card alerts, popping up on my phone like small explosions. Expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never heard of, Romano's Steakhouse, $400, the Velvet Room, $350, a jewelry purchase from Cartier for $3,000. When I called Derek, he laughed it off, the sound too bright, too forced. Business expenses, babe. Gotta wine and dine clients. You know how it is. This market's brutal, and I need every edge I can get. Since when do you buy clients' jewelry? Client's wife. Anniversary gift. They bought a $2 million property. $3,000 in jewelry got me $60,000 in commission. It sounded reasonable. Derek had always been good at the game, knowing exactly when to push and when to charm. But something felt off, like looking at a familiar picture hung slightly crooked. My battle buddy, Sergeant Rivera, noticed my distraction during a supply run. We were checking inventory when she found me staring at my phone, at a photo from Maddox's Instagram that Derek didn't know I followed. A family dinner at Romano's. Derek, the kids, and a woman with long dark hair, her hand on Bryn's shoulder. Everything good at home, Captain? Rivera asked. Define good, I muttered, then caught myself. It's fine. Distance is hard on everyone. That why you've been checking your phone like it's gonna explode? My daughter's having a tough time. Preteen stuff. Rivera, mother of 3, nodded knowingly. They pull away sometimes. Then they come back. You'll see. 2 weeks before my return, I called home unexpectedly. Middle of the day Tennessee time. The kids should have been at school, Derek at work. I wanted to leave a message. Something sweet about coming home soon. A woman answered on the second ring. Young, breathy voice like she'd been laughing. Oh, you must be Vera. Derek's told me so much about you. I'm Nadira. I'm helping with the kids while you're away. My blood turned to ice water. Helping how? You know, just being here for them. Derek says you've been gone so long, they needed a maternal figure, someone consistent. I totally understand how hard it must be being away from your babies. Where is Derek? Oh, he just ran to the store. We're planning Bryn's birthday dinner. Didn't he tell you? We're doing a whole princess theme. She's so excited. Bryn's birthday was 3 months away, and she hadn't been interested in princesses since she was 7. Tell Derek I called, I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Of course. And Vera, thank you for your service. Derek says you're so brave choosing your career like that. I hung up. My grandmother's voice echoed in my mind from our last conversation, 2 days prior. Something's not right, Vera. I drove by your house yesterday. There was a moving truck. Maybe Derek's getting new furniture, I'd rationalized, desperate to believe it. He mentioned updating the living room. Vera, honey, they were moving things in. A bedroom set, a woman's vanity. Maybe it's for Bryn? Bryn's 11, not 25. And since when does she need a Victoria's Secret delivery? I'd dismissed it, buried it under mission planning and supply routes. But now, standing in that airport, reading his text, all the pieces clicked into place like rounds sliding into a magazine. The maternal figure, the moving truck, the distant children, the expensive dinners, the jewelry. Derek hadn't just moved on while I was defending our country. He'd orchestrated a complete replacement, turning my children against me while spending my combat pay on another woman. The realization hit harder than any IED. My husband had executed a perfect ambush, and I'd never seen it coming. I sat down on a hard airport bench, the metal cold through my uniform, and made one call that would change everything. Sterling? It's Vera Holloway. Remember that contingency plan we discussed before my deployment? Sterling Vaughn had been my JAG advisor at Fort Campbell before he retired and became a civilian military lawyer. More importantly, he was the one person besides my grandmother who knew exactly what documents I'd filed before leaving. His voice came through sharp and alert, despite it being a Saturday afternoon. "Derek just texted me that he's changed the locks and turned my kids against me," I said, my voice steady as steel, the same tone I used when calling in medical evacuations under fire. "Time to execute Operation Homefront." "You still have all the power of attorney paperwork?" Sterling asked, and I could hear him already moving, probably heading to his home office. Every document perfectly notarized, plus the family care plan that designates my grandmother as emergency guardian if Derek becomes unfit. And Sterling? There's something else. I've been documenting everything for the past 6 months. Every missed call, every strange expense, every excuse. I have screenshots, bank records, credit card statements. How much equity is in the house? Sterling's fingers clicked across a keyboard, fast and efficient. 400,000, my VA loan, my name only. Derek's on the deed as a courtesy, but I never added him to the mortgage. That was Grandma Cordelia's idea. She said keeping it separate would protect the children's future. Sterling whistled low. Smart woman. And the bank accounts? Separate since deployment 2. I've been depositing my combat pay and allowances into an account he doesn't know exists. 60,000 saved, plus my re-enlistment bonus of 20,000 that hit last month. Vera, you brilliant woman. Derek has no idea what's coming, does he? He's about to learn what happens when you betray a logistics officer. We plan for every contingency. Sterling, I need you to file an emergency motion. I want my kids protected from whatever poison he's been feeding them. Already drafting it. What else? Freeze everything we can legally freeze. Cancel his access to my credit cards. Remove him as beneficiary from my life insurance and pension. And Sterling? I want a forensic accountant to go through our joint account. Every penny he spent on his girlfriend comes back to me. I hung up and immediately called my grandmother. She answered on the first ring, as if she'd been waiting by the phone. "Cordelia? I need you to go to the house. Don't confront anyone. Just document who's living there." "Already ahead of you, sweetheart." My grandmother's voice was sharp as a blade, carrying 40 years of judicial authority. "I've been taking photos for weeks. License plates, moving trucks, the woman coming and going at all hours. That woman, Nadira, moved in 2 months ago. She parks in your spot, Vera, uses your garden that you planted before deployment." My jaw clenched. That garden had been my therapy, my connection to home I'd planned in my mind during every sandstorm. "There's more," Cordelia continued. "I had coffee with Bryn's teacher yesterday. Casual conversation about how the kids were handling your deployment. Mrs. Patterson said Derek told the school you'd abandoned the family for your career. Said you chose re-enlistment over your children. The kids have been in counseling at school because Bryn cries every day, and Maddox got into 3 fights this month." "Fights?" Maddox has never fought anyone in his life. "Boys were calling you a deserter. Said their dads told them you abandoned your family for glory. Maddox broke one kid's nose." My hands didn't shake. They never did under fire. But my heart broke clean in half. "Execute Protocol 7, Grandma." "With pleasure, Captain." Protocol 7 was our nuclear option. Cordelia would petition for emergency custody based on parental alienation and psychological abuse. As a retired federal judge with connections throughout Tennessee's legal system, she could have papers filed within hours. "I'm also calling Preston," I added, referring to Derek's brother. "He needs to know what's happening before Derek spins this story." "Preston already knows," Cordelia said. "He called me last week, said he was worried about Derek, that his brother had lost his mind over some yoga instructor. Preston's been documenting things too. The family's on your side, Vera." I stood up, shouldering my duffel bag with renewed purpose. 3 years of combat had taught me that the best defense was a devastating offense. Derek thought he'd won with his surprise attack, but he'd forgotten the first rule of warfare. Never leave your enemy with nothing to lose. "Grandma, I'm heading to you now. Have the kids' rooms ready, already made up with fresh sheets. Your mother's quilts are on their beds. My mother had died when I was 15, but her quilts remained, each one stitched with love and protection. The kids would need that comfort in the storm that was coming. One more thing, I said. Call Channel 5. Tell them an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran just returned from her third tour to find her husband has stolen her children. Let's see how Derek handles public scrutiny. Vera, that's brilliant. Nothing like public shame to make a narcissist crumble. As I walked toward the taxi stand, my phone buzzed with another text from Derek. Being dramatic won't help. Just sign the papers when they come. I smiled, cold and sharp. Derek had no idea what papers were coming his way. 24 hours later, my phone exploded with notifications like a bombardment. 19 missed calls from Derek, 12 from his lawyer, 43 text messages ranging from confused to furious to desperate. The transformation from his smug dismissal to complete panic was documented in real time on my screen. "What did you do?" read the first text at 6 a.m. "The banks say I can't access anything," came 10 minutes later. "This is illegal. You can't lock me out of my own house." Arrived at 7:15. By 8 a.m., the tone had shifted. "Vera, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand." Derek's lawyer's voicemail was particularly satisfying, his voice high and stressed. "Captain Holloway, you have no legal right to freeze those accounts. The house transfer is illegal. Derek's claiming abandonment and emotional distress. Call me immediately." I called him back from my grandmother's dining room table, Sterling beside me with documents spread like battle plans. Across from us, Maddox and Bryn ate the chocolate chip cookies my grandmother had made, the same recipe she'd used when I was young. My grandmother had picked them up from school with the emergency custody order just an hour earlier. "Counselor," I said pleasantly when Derek's lawyer answered, "I believe you're confused. The accounts I froze are in my name only. The house transfer? I sold my house to my grandmother for fair market value, completely legal. As for abandonment, I've been serving my country with Derek's written consent. Would you like to see the family care plan he signed? Page 12 specifically states he understood his responsibilities. But Derek lives there. His girlfriend, the nanny, has established residency. Squatters, you mean? My grandmother, as the new owner, has already initiated eviction proceedings. 30 days' notice was posted this morning at 9 a.m. by the sheriff's office." Derek's voice erupted in the background, muffled but clearly screaming, "She can't do this! I have rights! That's my house!" "Mr. Holloway." Sterling took the phone, his voice carrying the authority of 20 years in military law. "Your client committed fraud by telling the children their mother abandoned them while she was on active duty. That's parental alienation. He also moved his girlfriend into Captain Holloway's house without consent. That's adultery, which still matters in military divorce proceedings. He misused family support funds meant for the children, spending them on his mistress." "Should I continue?" The line went quiet. I could picture Derek's face, that moment when he realized his house of cards was collapsing. Then his lawyer spoke carefully. "What does Captain Holloway want?" I took the phone back. "I want my children to know the truth. I want the divorce Derek so kindly initiated via text message, and I want him out of my grandmother's house in 72 hours, not 30 days, or I press charges for misuse of military family support funds. Every dime he spent on Nadira while I was deployed, every dinner, every gift, that was theft from my children." "Mommy?" Bryn's small voice came from across the table. She looked so much older than when I'd left, but her eyes were still the same green as mine. "Daddy said you didn't love us anymore, that you chose the army over us." I knelt beside her chair, taking her small hands in mine. They were trembling. "Baby, I chose the army for you, to serve our country, to make you proud, to show you that women can be warriors and mothers. Every single day, every single minute, I thought of you and Maddox. Look." I pulled out my phone and showed her the gallery. Hundreds of photos of them I'd looked at every night. The wallpaper on my laptop in the Tactical Operations Center. Their school pictures taped inside my helmet. Maddox spoke quietly. "Dad made us call Nadira Mom. Said you weren't coming back. Said you found a new family in the army. But I did come back," I said, pulling both my children close. The smell of their shampoo, the weight of them against me, it was everything I'd dreamed of for 3 years. I'll always come back. You are my only family. You are my whole world. Derek's lawyer's voice crackled through the phone Sterling still held. We'll agree to your terms. All of them? Sterling pressed. All of them. Derek will vacate within 72 hours. He'll sign away any claim to Captain Holloway's pension, benefits, and the house. He'll accept supervised visitation only, pending completion of a parental alienation course. And Nadira? I asked. She's already packing, the lawyer admitted. Apparently, she was under the impression Derek owned the house and had significant savings. Bryn looked up at me. Does this mean we're staying with Great-Grandma Cordelia? Just for a little while, sweetheart. Until I find us a new place, our own place. Can we still go to Disney World? She asked, and for the first time in months, according to my grandmother, Bryn smiled. Every single water slide, I promised. Sterling hung up the phone and turned to me. Total victory, Captain. He folded like a cheap tent. From outside, we heard a car door slam. Through the window, I saw Derek standing in my grandmother's driveway, his face red, Nadira in the passenger seat of his BMW looking at her phone with disgust. Vera! He shouted. You can't do this. 15 years. We have 15 years together. My grandmother started to rise, but I placed a hand on her shoulder. We had 15 years, I called through the window. You ended them with a text message while I was serving our country. You got exactly what you asked for, Derek. A life without me. You just didn't realize that meant a life without everything I brought to the table. 6 months later, I stood in my dress uniform again, but this time in a courtroom. The divorce was final. Derek got exactly what he'd earned. Nothing from my military pension, no alimony, supervised visitation with the children after his parental alienation was documented by 3 different child psychologists. The judge, a veteran himself, had barely concealed his disgust when he read the evidence. Derek had moved in with Preston, his brother, after Nadira left him the same day the money ran out. Funny how true love evaporates when the luxury dinners end. Preston told me later that she'd screamed at Derek for 2 hours about being a fraud, a liar who'd promised her a life of comfort. She'd thrown the Cartier necklace at his face and stormed out, already texting someone new before she reached her car. You planned this all along, Derek accused me outside the courthouse, his suit wrinkled, his face gaunt from months of stress. You knew I'd betray you. No, Derek. I hoped you wouldn't, but I prepared in case you did. That's what soldiers do. We hope for peace, prepare for war. My grandmother linked her arm through mine, still formidable at 65. You did good, Captain. Your parents would be proud. She tricked me, Derek called after us, desperate now. Tell them how you tricked me. I turned back one last time. I didn't trick you, Derek. I just refused to be your victim. There's a difference. That night, I tucked my children into their beds in our new house. Smaller than the old one, but ours alone, bought with my VA loan and the money I'd saved during deployment. No ghost of Derek haunted these halls. No memories of betrayal stained these walls. Maddox had joined the JROTC program, inspired by my service. I want to be like you, Mom, he'd told me. Strong, prepared, someone who protects people. The fights at school had stopped the moment his classmates learned the truth about why I'd been gone. 3 of them had apologized, their parents mortified at believing Derek's lies. Bryn had written a school essay titled My Mom, My Hero that made me cry for an hour. Her teacher, Mrs. Patterson, sent me a copy with a note. I'm so sorry I believed Derek's version. Bryn reads this essay to anyone who'll listen. She's so proud of you. Mom? Bryn asked as I turned off her light. Were you scared? When Dad sent that text, I sat on her bed considering the question. No, baby. Because I knew something Daddy didn't. Soldiers don't just fight battles overseas. Sometimes the hardest battles are the ones we fight for our families, and I've been trained to win. Is that why Great-Grandma Cordelia calls you her warrior? Maybe, I smiled, but you know what made me strong? Knowing I had you and Maddox to come home to. You were my strength when things got dark over there. Dad said you loved the Army more than us. The Army was my job. You're my life. Never confuse the two. She hugged me tight, and I breathed in the miracle of being home, truly home, with my children safe and Derek's poison slowly leaving their systems. The next morning, Judge Cordelia Nash raised her coffee mug at breakfast. To my granddaughter, who proves that the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting everything. The kids laughed. Maddox was making pancakes, shaped like tanks and helicopters. Bryn was setting the table, humming a song from her dance class. Normal, peaceful, ours. Outside, Derek drove by slowly, looking at the house he could no longer enter. I saw him through the kitchen window but didn't react. Warriors don't gloat over defeated enemies. They just win and move on. "Mom," Maddox said suddenly, "I'm glad you documented everything. Preston told me Dad was planning this for a year. He thought you were stupid." "Language," I warned gently. "That's what he said, Mom. That you were too trusting to see it coming." "Well," I said, flipping a pancake, "he learned an important lesson. Never underestimate a logistics officer. We handle million-dollar supply chains and coordinate movements of thousands of soldiers. Did he really think I couldn't handle one lying real estate agent?" My grandmother laughed, rich and full. "That's my girl." 3 words had changed everything. As you wish. Not because I was giving up, but because I was giving Derek exactly what he'd asked for. A life without me. He just hadn't realized that meant a life without my benefits, my house, my money, and ultimately, my children's respect. I'd returned from 3 tours of duty to fight my hardest battle on American soil, and I'd won it not with weapons or force, but with preparation, documentation, and the unwavering support of a grandmother who'd taught me that sometimes the best defense is having your legal paperwork in order. The doorbell rang. It was the mailman with a package. Inside, 3 purple hearts that had finally been processed. I'd earned them for injuries sustained in combat, but looking at my children, safe and healing from their father's betrayal, I knew the real wounds and the real victories happened right here at home. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight for your family or stand up to betrayal, hit that like button and share this video. Your story matters too, and you're not alone. Leave a comment below about a time when preparation saved you from someone's betrayal. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories of triumph over adversity. Remember, the best revenge is a well-documented legal strategy and a grandmother who used to be a federal judge. Stay strong, warriors.